Hi, everybody. At Skating PJ here, otherwise known as PJ Kwong. And in today's Skate Ontario Presents, we're going to do a live town hall, obviously, all about synchronized skating and the recent changes that were announced to some of the categories for the upcoming season. So we were going to be joined by Dr. Shae Zukiwsky from Skate Canada, but unfortunately, he's not able to join us tonight. But I am going to be joined by Scott Rachuk, who's the Director of Sport Development for Skate Ontario. And we're going to focus entirely on this topic. We hope that you will chime in with your questions and your comments. And there is lots to talk about. So without further ado, Scott Rachuk, welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Well, you know what? We are so happy to have you. Okay, let's get started. Can you tell me, give me the Reader's Digest version of the changes, what's been happening before we get right into it?
Sure. So some of the changes that have been made to the categories certainly kind of focus, like the biggest impact is focused on kind of the entry level synchro categories, like your beginners, your elementary, and your pre-juvenile categories. So those are the ones that have been impacted the most. The beginner categories, again, have gone to an element only opportunity, and pre-juvenile, which was a CPC category in the past, is now a skate to standard category, and it is in star 4 as well as elementary. So those two categories have been combined and to make one at this point. All the rest are relatively the same. The only difference between the categories now is they have something called, are equated to the star 6, star 8, star 10. So our juvenile, our pre-novice, and our intermediate categories are associated with the star categories as we go forward.
So that, in and of itself, I mean, I'm no longer a coach, although I was a coach for a very long time, as I used to say to my skaters, since before ice was invented. But I think that probably there is a rationale for all of this. And this is one of the reasons why this town hall we wanted to have, to sort of be able to get out there and talk about it with the synchro community. So what is the rationale?
Well, the rationale, again, is to align all of our skating disciplines, so singles, pair, ice dance, and synchro, to the long-term development model, which was put out by Skate Canada last September. And again, some of these changes are directly to align this discipline with that LTD standard model.
It's so interesting, but when we're talking skating, I mean, you know what, as coaches and as officials and even as skaters, we're extremely familiar with all kinds of terminology and all kinds of sort of ideas. But I guess what I want to know about, and this is to help maybe the parents who are parents of synchro skaters, what is long-term development? What does that actually mean?
So every athlete or every sport, in fact, has what they call an athlete development model or a long-term development plan. And so Skate Canada has developed one through Sport for Life. So they've used the Sport for Life model. But again, it gives you a pathway that you can choose as an athlete from entry to exit in your sport. Okay. And so through that athlete development model, there are two streams of paths we can go on. One is a star pathway and one is a podium pathway. And the podium pathway, again, looks at categories like your novice, junior, senior categories, and things that go through to your international and world level competitions. And the star pathway will take you through, again, things like your star 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, active for life and competitive for life categories.
So back when I was a skater, I feel strongly that a lot of what used to happen was a bit by happenstance, like a bit mysterious how people would rise to the top. And I know skaters sort of from my age and older who would probably say the same thing. But in truth, success is built on foundational skills, let's say, and that's what we've discovered over time. Can you speak a little bit to that and the importance of it?
Yeah. Again, the entry, again, when you're talking about your fundamental stages, your learn to train stages, and your train to train stages of development, those are kind of our 3 entry level stages of the LTD, that it's based around those foundational skills, not just the skills in skating, but it's also around self skills and physical skills as well. And so the LTD model that is on the Skate Canada's website goes through all aspects of the development, meaning here are the targets we'd like to reach. These are
Okay.
important factors in your development, etc. It's actually a pretty good read, and it gives you a really good idea from stage to stage what's required, and how you as an athlete or you as a parent can help direct the direction you want to go.
So let's just say, for giggles, that we just decided to do nothing and just let everything kind of, happen like that.
Mhm.
What is the risk to doing that? And what is the reward that comes from this careful kind of planning? And
Well,
let's apply it to Synchro.
yeah, I think when you look at, again, a careful planning stage, you again can take appropriate steps at the right times in the athlete's development. And again, it's not just based entirely on skill, it's based as well on self skill development and physical skill development. So again, you may have the skating skills to manage a certain category, but you may not have the self skills to manage those things. And so again, in what we've done, or what's kind of happened in sport, is that we have relied solely on those skating skills or the athletic skills that you possess to move you through. And so this way, again, if we have careful planning, we can have really solid development for all the athletes, and then they can choose their own path in the direction they'd like to go, whether they want to continue on the star pathway or do they want to kind of veer off into the podium pathway direction.
So I raised three kids, and when they were little, often they wanted to do something, but it was mostly because they wanted to have popsicles afterwards and, like a jersey. So there are many sports out there in that sort of baby stage. Okay. So figure skating also has little wee ones that start.
Yes.
But there are many sports out there that it doesn't really matter if you don't know how to do it. I'm thinking back to my children's stellar record in t-ball.
Mhm.
Figure skating or skating is not like that.
Right.
You can't just slap on a pair of skates and hope for the best. It's not like putting on a pair of running shoes, and you've been running since you were 2
Mhm.
and you just sort of follow along. So I think I'd like you to speak a little bit more to why developing those skills. I mean, a skater being able to choose their own pathway, that's one thing. But as far as the quality of the sport that's happening, why are those skills so important? Why is developing um, skaters? Why is that important?
Okay. Uh, Again, when we're talking about developing of skaters, or why those skills are so important to develop, again, skating is a fairly dangerous sport. Again,
Yeah.
it's slippery out there, and again, to have the solid basic skating skills on your own are certainly super important when you're talking about things like team activities, team events, touching somebody else, being able to skate at the same pace or speed with someone else. So again, creating those foundational skills kind of at the entry level is imperative, again, for our athletes as they move forward to, again, to decide what it is that they want to do in the sport.
Okay.
Again, there are 4 disciplines in our sport: singles, pairs, ice dance, and synchronized skating. And they all have different skill sets, but the commonality amongst them is being able to skate on your own.
So, are there any parallels in any of the other disciplines to what's happening right now for synchro?
Yes, the the pre-juvenile category for sure was has been taken out of pair skating. That's gone.
Okay.
The pre-juvenile free dance program is now eliminated from the ice dance. So ice dance has pattern dance still, but that's it. And obviously now the synchro, the pre-juvenile pieces, has moved into the star 4 category. So the only event or category that has pre-juvenile would be single skating at this point.
Okay, so let's take a look again at that graphic that shows the changes from before to what's coming up this season.
Yes.
So we talk about elements only,
Hmm.
and that's formerly beginner one and two. Who are those skaters, and what are we trying to develop here in
Yeah,
the start?
those again are your star skaters, your entry level star skaters, skaters
Okay,
in star 1 to 3 or 1 to 4. Again, it there's no mandatory requirements to be on a synchro team at this point. They are moving forward with next year having to have passed your star 1 skills in order to be part of a synchro team or to
okay,
compete as a synchro team. And these kids again are going to go and compete or compete. I guess you call it compete at a skate to standard level, just elements. And but that doesn't eliminate the fact that you can't still work with them on things like programs or skating to music. It's going to have to be in a different environment, something that's again local, ice show, um, exhibitions, etc. But that's still something that can be done. It just isn't going to be done and evaluated by evaluators or judges at this point.
so the idea would be if I was a synchro coach with what was formerly a pre-juvenile team and now a star three team, what I should be focusing on in terms of my, my teaching plan is I should be focusing on creating some mastery around skills.
Yeah.
And then beyond that, for fun, I can also choose to take a piece of music and help the skaters incorporate the skills that they're using into something that can be seen as a program. But is do I have that right?
Yes. Yeah. That's exactly what can be done at that star 3 level for sure. Again, it's about the experience when we're when we're at this level. It's not about again the competition or winning or the placement, etc. It's about what experience are you trying to create or give the athletes so that again they enjoy what they're doing and will they want to continue doing this down the road. And I know a lot of times we focus on the competition and the placement, etc. But that's still not the main or the most important thing. In the long term athlete development, there's a stage called learn to win, and that's when winning or placements actually matter, and that's at the senior world level. That's where it becomes important to win. But up until then, it's learn to train, learn to compete, etc.
What I love about skating, and I've said it lots of times before, is that the skills that you acquire through sport stand you in very good stead for life. Do you know what? We've got our first question, and it's from Allison Proudfoot.
Mhm.
And will there be music for the elements only at competition? And how are the skaters supposed to keep in unison?
To my knowledge, at this point, again, the element events are not finalized as to how they're going to be uh, used at these events at all. But to my understanding, the elements only are not to music, and I guess from that perspective, to keep unison, etc. Again, we're going to have to be very creative on how that's going to happen. As far as maybe someone keeping count, or again just practicing those elements as we go forward. At the end of the day, we're going to have to figure out as an association and as collective coaches and programs, how are we going to best use these new changes to better our athletes and to use them in a proper fashion. And again, that's something that we're going to have to really dive into as we move forward.
Great question from Ku Wen. Thank you for this, Ku. And I've got a bit of an answer while you're looking at the question, Scott.
Yeah.
So, over the years, we've consistently competed with hockey's team environment. And I don't think that's true necessarily. There are lots of skaters and lots of parents who really see the value of team competition. I know lots of skaters and lots of parents who also see the value in solo sport. So the team environment, I know sometimes parents want to,
Mhm.
jump right into synchro skating as a team environment. But as I mentioned before, there are many more things that go into it than simply putting on a pair of skates and going. So I'm not sure that we're going to, that we have to compete with the other competitions, because as you're explaining it to me, we still have performance opportunities or opportunities at competitive events for these teams to be able to participate. And if you could speak to that a little bit, that would be great. And thanks, Ku. That's a great question.
Yeah, and I agree with what you just said, PJ. As far as there are still plenty of opportunities that we can use as a team opportunity. Again, performance opportunities. There are events that, again, will have the run of everything from that star three right up to the senior events in our competition calendar, and we have to again start to look at how we take advantage of the opportunities we do have to move ourselves forward. And again, the world of sport has changed considerably. It's not just figure skating.
Yeah.
A lot of sport is working towards this. Again, eliminating the competitive opportunities and things like that at younger ages. I mean, I can go to take an example from Europe where Norway, for sure, no competitions allowed in any sport until after the age of 12. And so, and if you look at that, who has won the last two Winter Olympic Games as far as medal count goes? And that's been Norway. So there is ways to do this, and I know that's comparing apples and oranges, but at the same time, we as an organization and as a sport have to figure out what do we have to offer, not what don't we have to offer. What do we have to offer as a sport that will make kids want to be here? And part of
Right.
it for me, I mean, as a coach myself, my I felt my role was to teach you something today so you wanted to come back tomorrow. That's what my job was.
Yeah.
And if I did my job well, you'll be there. And if I don't do my job well, then you're going to seek something else.
Yeah.
And I've never used competition or tests or anything to motivate someone to come back at the end of
Oh,
it all. But I can create, certainly you can create opportunities in so many different ways besides the one thing which is called competition.
okay. Elizabeth Oliver wants to know about ages. What are the ages for each of the levels? We're going to show that graphic again. Does pre-novice have no lower age limit? Do you know?
Uh, yeah, that's my understanding. Again, I
Okay.
don't have the I don't have that right in front of me, the age categories, but there is no lower age, but there is an upper age for the ones up until gold for sure. And novice, I believe, has an upper age category, as does junior, but there is no lower age category.
I actually have the papers. And
Nice.
yeah, skaters must not have reached the age of 16 before July 1st, preceding the competition.
Right.
So that's the answer
Yeah.
to that. Okay, Tara Wilkins has a great question. Will Skate Ontario be offering competitions for under 12 versus plus 12, throwing all beginner, elementary, and pre-juve teams into one category? I do not want my 9-year-old competing against 16-year-old elementary teams. Can I just say something here? From
Sure.
what I understand, these competitions are going to be skate to standard, right?
Right. Yes.
Okay, so basically, you can have 45 different teams of 45 different age categories. We're actually not competing against them. We are just within our own
Mhm.
lane, if if I understood
Yes.
it correctly.
Yes. That's the concept behind skate to standard is that again you're being evaluated amongst the standard as opposed to team after team coming out and doing it. Now, obviously, if we have an abundance of teams that are in that kind of younger age categories, we would likely categorize them or put them in an opportunity where they would be kind of around each other. So
Okay.
we wouldn't go this team of under 12s are going to be in this group with everybody that's over 12 and then the other 7 teams that are under 12 somewhere else. Like
Okay.
we'll try to keep them in that. That's one of the luxuries I think with being in Ontario is we do have a large number of teams. uh,
Yes.
in this event. We don't just have one or two teams, so we can manage that as we go forward. But again, that's things. Those are things that the community has to go. This is important to us, and if it's important to us, then we'll do what we can to make that happen.
Great question from Natalie Floyd. And you and I, before we started this town hall, we were talking about this very thing. How long is it going to take to do an element competition? Like, how is it going to sort of roll out? And from what you told me, you don't have the information quite yet.
No, I don't. I don't have. And Natalie, a great question, because it's the exact same question I had.
Yeah.
Because yeah, you're right. We don't know how long these are going to take and how much time that something like that is going to take within the framework of an event, for
Okay.
sure. Skate Canada has told me that information should be out shortly.
Okay. Great.
And I'll hold them to that. I'll keep pressing that question as well as we move forward.
Watch this space. That's what we need to do, right?
That's right.
So, Elena O'Brien, how many competition opportunities will there be for Star 3, 4 categories, and also for juvenile and above? Is there information coming out about that?
Yeah, the competition calendar was supposed to come out a few weeks ago, and this information came to us kind of last minute, just as it did to most of you on this forum today. So we had to make some adjustments. Now that competition calendar is coming out this week, so it's finalized. It's finished. I can tell you 3, 4 will have between 2 to 4 opportunities, I believe, is what we was the goal for that. Juvenile, same thing, 3 to 4 opportunities, etc. So again, we worked with a committee to put the Synchro calendar together, and that will come out, like I said, probably tomorrow or Friday. And once you have a look at that, any questions, comments, etc., will either come to myself or Kelsey Bennett, who I believe her email address is on that communication.
Okay, great question. Tara Wilkins and Chrissy Kernahan are sort of talking about the same kind of question, and it's about ranking in Star 4. So Tara thinks that she's saying that as coaches, they've all been told that Star 4 will be ranked. Mm-hmm. And let's go back to Chrissy Kernahan's comment, which is skate to standard for assessment, or like, how does that work? There's somebody actually watching them. And is there also not ranking medals in Star 4? Similarly told elementary.
Chrissy, I will definitely have to look into that answer for you. I don't have that answer on me at this point, but I will take that question to the powers that be and find out what that answer is, and we'll get that back to you.
And Scott was actually willing to put out his own email address, which is right here. So if you have questions or comments, you can go directly to Scott, and he'll try and help you where he can. So, and Ku Wen said the same thing. So Star 4 has no ranking. Is that correct?
Yeah. Again, I'll have to find that out.
So it's all the same thing. Okay. Yeah. I thought we were talking when you were talking about finding out the information that you were talking about the assessment part of skate to standard.
Yeah. And I don't know if there's a ranking system that goes with that. So I will find out how their events at this level are to be marked and ranked or not ranked as we go forward.
Okay. So if you were going to say, like, you're a dad, you're a coach, mm-hmm. You've been in figure skating like forever. You're hip deep in figure skating. So if you could, for parents who are out here, not just the coaches, but for the parents and for, other kinds of interested parties, what would you say is the ultimate goal here? What are we trying to accomplish, sort of, big picture, but also here in Skate Ontario?
Well, I think big picture, again, is to give athletes the choice of the disciplines and the pathway they want to choose for themselves. And again, when we look at the LTD model, for sure, it stresses that every athlete has their own particular desires and pathways that they want to go. Everybody has their own podium. Everybody has their own
Yep.
goals, their own desires. And we just have to be really careful that we aren't trying to pigeonhole people into what we want them to do. Again, as a parent, I have two girls. I put them both in skating. One hated it, didn't last more than 6 months, and the other one loved it. And again, so we go, okay, we find you something you enjoy, and again, that's just how it was. And I also, I mean, the one daughter I have is so not competitive, like is doesn't want to compete at anything, and the other one can't stop competing. And
Okay.
and again, that's also what we have to factor into these things, that there's a place for everybody. And really our goal from an association perspective is to give opportunities to everybody and do our best to satisfy that every day, basically.
So, aside from giving skaters opportunities and aside from giving them sort of life possibilities, is there also an aspect to this that as an organization, a provincial organization, which we are, but also a national organization, is there a method to this madness? Is this about creating skaters and success in the world of synchronized skating? I mean, it's in the other worlds too, but we're talking about synchro tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, again, there's always a method to the madness for sure. And again, I suggest or recommend to everybody to look through that LTD model again, to go, okay, these are the steps, and there is a synchro component in that model. So there's a singles, pair, ice dance, skills, etc., and synchronized skating pieces in that model to give you an idea of what's required, and and how we can move forward, and not just again in the skill side, but also in the self skills and the physical skills that are needed to develop as we go as we move through the sport. But definitely the method to the madness is that it's sport for life is what we're trying to do. And again, if we can give them a really solid experience in our sport, then they'll be active for life, not just in skating, but in other things as well. And I think that's, again, at the end of the day, that is our job, is to have people active for life and to be healthy. And again, whether it's in skating or in another sport, I think that's really important.
Can you tell me three things that you love about synchro and that synchro offers its skaters?
Yeah, I think the one number one, it's a great team environment, and it's not really anywhere else in our sport. And again, when you go to an event, and I've had the luxury in the past few years, again, having worked in Europe, to be able to go to some events, to go, wow, this is really, really fun. And I've had more opportunity to kind of work hand in hand with teams to see how dedicated their athletes are to all aspects of the sport. So, again, the team environment, the dedication of these athletes is phenomenal. And again, the passion within this discipline is really, it's there. Like, people love this part of the sport.
Yep.
And unfortunately, if you're not into it, or with it, you don't understand it until you have been exposed to it.
Okay, a great question from Ku. Why are single skaters ranked at competition as early as Star 1, but in synchro, we would wait until the juvenile level?
That to me again is a great question, and I'll find those answers out for you.
Okay, Ku.
I'll find out exactly what the concept and the process is going to be for each of those levels.
I think, I taught a little bit of synchro. I'm a big synchro fan. And I think that part of it is when you think about synchronized skating, it's synchronized. It's not like other team sports. I mean, the athletes who are in hockey or in soccer or all the other team sports don't actually have to move at the same time. They don't have to be synchronized in the same way.
Right.
So I think that there are also a lot of moving parts. So the skating skill is one aspect of it for sure, but then there are all those other kind of dynamics that go into it. So maybe the rankings, I'm just guessing, but maybe the rankings really aren't all that meaningful
Right.
until they can actually skate better.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think at the end of it all, we really have to watch that we don't focus on things like that
Okay.
at this stage, because again, this stage is about the experience and learning how to do this. And the ranking piece of that is, I'm not going to say it's irrelevant, but it is so far down the list of what's important at this stage of development, at these stages of development. Again, if you look through that LTD, there's only one stage called Learn to Win. That's the only one that's there that says win in it. And
Okay.
that's the one that's at the senior level. The rest is just learn and
Yes.
gain experience so that you can do that if that's your goal or want.
And in PJ's case, never win. But that's okay. That's a story for a different day. I'm not
Yeah,
bitter.
exactly. It doesn't make us bad people if we
No,
don't
it
win.
certainly doesn't. We're going to go to Allison has a great question, followed by Natalie. Star one is elements, but every other level has a program. Why are we being called star three if we only have elements?
Again, I don't know why that
Okay.
decision was made. I don't, but I will find that out, Allison. That's no problem.
Okay. And star three, do you know the rationale between only allowing 6 to 12 skaters?
I don't. I don't.
Okay.
I don't know
Fair enough.
why those decisions were made. Again, this was made by a committee at Skate Canada,
Okay.
and to be perfectly honest, the information that you have is the same information that I have
Okay. So
at this
it's going to evolve.
point.
And I know that we're going to get to a question right now from Chrissy, but let's talk first about next steps for you and for Skate Ontario. What do
Sure.
you think you're doing?
Well, we 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 definitely need to have, um, and I don't know if I want to call it a meeting or a symposium, with the synchro discipline. So coaches, managers. I'm even prepared to bring any athletes that want to come. I'm not sure if that's, again, maybe age appropriate, etc. But we want we need to get on the same page together. And again, to do what's in the best interest of this discipline for our athletes in Ontario from entry to exit. So we have something planned based again around some of the information that came out over the last couple of weeks, where again, sitting in the chair that I'm in, I go like, we need to get this figured out. And many people have asked, if there's a committee, can I be on it? And in my mind, I think we need to have an open forum where anybody can come, and we will figure this out, or to do what's in the best interest of the athletes in Ontario. And so that meeting will be either end of July or early August. So the information on that will come out in June, as far as where, when, and how we're going to make this happen. But we'll spend a day together and go over this discipline. And again, let's figure out how we can use these changes to our advantage and how we can best move this discipline forward in Ontario. And get again, the people on this call and the people in this discipline are passionate and love it. Then the rest of us should also get that same kind of vibe. And how can we get
Yep.
that information out to everybody?
Okay, great. Chrissy Kernahan has a great perspective. I'm going to read it out loud. As a coach in the synchro pathway, the ability to offer a team component for our little can skate Star One skaters is the building block of our synchro pathway. This is a huge draw within our club and has created retention in our club singles programming. Affordable intro teams that let them have the events to show off their skills. Competition is not the focus. The experience is the learning. Is the learning how to and seeing where synchro can take them. Can you respond to that?
Again, I think that's, I know that, again, the LTD model is not prone to the can skate athlete being part of the synchro teams or the dance teams or the pair teams, etc. Again, that program is designed as a learn to skate program, and we move into the star program, which is the learn to figure skate program at that
Okay.
point, and that's why it's kind of in connection with that. Now, obviously, if you have opportunities that you can advance their skating that again are outside of the realm of competing, and you want them to be part of a team and you want them to skate together, etc. I'm not here to tell you you can't do that. I'm saying that you're not going to be competing with them at that
Okay.
point. It doesn't mean they can't skate together and learn skills, etc. That will help drive them in that direction. But we also need to remember too that again, this is also their choice, and we need to expose them to all aspects of the sport. And the Star 1 to 4 program, definitely, or 1 to 5 program, has a synchro component, it has a dance component. I don't know if it has a pair component in it, but it has those components as well as singles in it. So that, again, every club is supposed to be teaching that stuff as they move through that system.
Okay, great comment from Lindsay Burrows and a couple of questions. You mentioned Norway, and Lindsay's curious, could you speak to the why behind their approach to only introducing competition at higher developmental levels? Is it intentional that we are modeling after that approach? What is something that Lindsay could share with parents or clients to help them on board to this new approach to training and development, as it is a shift from what they've become accustomed to?
Yeah, and I would say we're not modeling ourselves after Norway
Okay.
at all. Norway has, again, a different perspective on things, and it's a lot to do with the psychological development of their young people. That
Okay.
exposing them to competition kind of at an early stage is not, in their opinion, the people that run their country, in their opinion, not in the best interest of the development of their young people. And so, again, they still have opportunities to do things. Like again, they do have these skate to standard things, and they do play games. They don't keep scores, etc. Again, very similar to some of the other sports in Canada as well. But again, when we look at how the LTD is put together, again, this was put together by people that, again, the research and the science behind it, again, is focused on the development of our young people in order to make them healthy in every way, not just the athletic health, but the mental and the social health as well as we move forward.
Who's got a great comment? Actually, Melissa has kind of a cheeky comment, which is you don't see Norway on the podiums for skating at Worlds or Olympics. You kind of do in speed skating, though,
Yes.
not figure skating. But and that could be lack of facilities, Melissa. But I totally get your point, and I appreciate the cheekiness. That's fantastic. Okay, let's go to Koo. Koo's talking about the fact that change is hard, and then the next comment, the fact that the approach that there are lots of gaps in the planning.
Mhm.
You're already saying that, and is that a challenge? And is that something that you feel confident about being able to work out? We're not 100% there yet as far as what's going to happen. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I think this is why we need to have this fulsome conversation, this meeting or symposium, because at the end of it all, we want to do what's in the best interest of the discipline, not
Yep.
just again what I think is in the best interest of the discipline. Like again, the people that are the coaches and the athletes and the managers, you're in the trenches on this. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not. I'm sitting in an office. So it's really hard for me to go, oh, this is what's necessary and needed without being in the trenches. So again, my background is as a coach, and when things like this came forward, I was always like, why are
What?
we doing what? And then you got to think, okay, how can we make this work
Yeah.
for us? And why? I mean, the decisions aren't being made just out of left field. There's thought behind it and there's research behind it. If we don't understand it, that's something we have to again get better at communicating.
Yeah.
from an administrative perspective, and hopefully again by the time we all get together, we'll be able to have all these answers in place so we can start to develop and take all the disciplines forward, not just synchro, but every discipline as we strive going forward. And also I appreciate that we need to be patient with you, vice versa. Like you need to be patient with
Okay.
us as well, because at the same time, this came to me with very little notice as well, and
Okay.
caught us off guard. And now we're dealing with it. I didn't make the problem, but now it's my problem. So we're going to find a solution, and we're going to make this work.
And I guess I would maybe choose a different word from problem, because
Yes.
problem implies that this is bad.
Yes.
And clearly, there's been a lot of work and a lot of thought that's gone into it. And there are
Yes.
people
Yeah.
with a focus that is different from mine in my regular world that have thought about kind of all the angles. So I guess it's more along the lines of trying to figure out, okay, here's what we've been, here are all the ingredients. Like I get my meal kits, like I've gotten from all of the pandemic, but I actually need the piece of paper that tells me what I'm going to do with them now. So you've now got the ingredients for the meal kit. You're still waiting for a bit more of the information as to, how you're going to cook the recipe.
Yeah.
Coming up with an analogy.
And it's also hard when you're, again, when you're in the planning side of things, meaning again, you're in the administrative side, or you're doing these changes. You're also on the change management curve. You're so far ahead. Like
Yeah.
you've been dealing with this for 2-3 years, and today, you're at the starting point. And so yeah, do we have to be patient? Absolutely, because we're at different spots
Yeah.
in that change management curve, and we all recognize that, and we have to be really understanding of that, especially
Yes.
from, again, the position that I'm sitting in. Like I can't just assume what's been going on for 2 years,
Okay.
and that again, I got to let you catch up, or we gotta give you more information as to why things are developing or moving forward, in this perspective.
Okay. That's fair. Ku had another good question, which is this rollout going to look different within Skate Ontario than it might in other provinces, or you don't know?
No, I don't know how the other provinces are going to deal with it. Again, Ontario has so many more athletes and teams and things to that nature that, yeah, we again have to do what's in our best interest as well,
Okay.
from an Ontario perspective. And there again, there are going to be opportunities for us to touch base with other provinces as we move forward. But in reality, Ontario holds probably 40% of the athletes in the country. And so we have a big piece here, and we have to kind of control our own destiny.
Okay. I think that Chrissy's got an interesting comment, and I think it's worthy of passing along. That the timing of this communication came out at an awkward time because many of the tryouts were already done. Can you be relied upon to perhaps pass that message forward to Skate Canada? And I want to say one other thing, that it's kind of what you talked about. You are sitting in your office and not in the trenches. So what goes on, at the rink isn't necessarily top of mind like it once was when you were a coach.
Mhm.
I would be in the same boat. And I imagine that Skate Canada would have been in the same boat as well. But can you speak to that a little bit?
Yes, and to be perfectly honest, we have already communicated that, to Skate Canada, that the timing of this was not good, and that we do have to be way more understanding and aware of timelines and deadlines, for things to come out. And we're all guilty of that. That again, it's, oh, this is my timeline, so it must be right. But again, I think again, when we start to talk about, when we get together and and hash this all out, things like that will be super important to know. what's a good timing for information like changes to come out? If you say it's September, or you say it's January, or you say it's whatever, then that gives me and the staff here at Skate Ontario the power or the ability to communicate that better, not to do it after the fact, to
Okay.
go, wow, that's really bad timing.
We know
Instead
that
of
for
going,
next time.
yeah, and instead of going like, if you're going to make changes to this discipline, they have to be done in November or September or whatever it
Right.
is,
Okay.
so that people can be ready for it, so that they can actually prepare. And yes, to further answer your question, yes, we have communicated that already.
Danny Joe Jones has a question. Then we've got one more, and I think we're going to be out of time. But many synchro skaters who may have left the world of figure skating due to the changes in singles. Some skaters are competitive, but don't get that opportunity on the single side. This side of the sport, I assume meaning synchro, is growing with huge interest and excitement. And may I just throw in a fact? This is the fastest growing discipline in the ISU. I don't know if you knew that. Did you
There
know
you go.
that? Okay,
I did
now we
not.
know. So huge interest and excitement in the clubs and at the skater level. Sometimes messing with a good thing does not have the intended result you want. Sometimes it does, though, Danny Joe.
Yes.
And don't get rid of competitions at the lower levels. These teams really look forward to it. Before you speak to it, again, because I learned all this stuff through you, we're not actually getting rid of competitions.
No.
We're just changing the framework.
Correct.
Okay.
There's still, the opportunities are still there,
Okay.
but they may look different as far as the scoring results, etc. But again, if we focus on the experience as opposed to that other part, which is the result side of things, then again, we can use all this to our advantage.
Okay. Koo's got a question, and that is, how is it that it was not known out there in the world that this was happening if the committee had synchro coaches representing all levels on it?
I guess at the end of it all, um, we have to have a better communication system set up with Skate Canada as well, because
Okay.
again, there's probably an assumption that people on committees or even staff members, etc., bring the information back, and that's not always the case.
Okay.
That I may be on a committee at Skate Canada, but it's really not my purview to share that information with anybody. Uh,
Okay.
that it's Skate Canada's property. It's not mine to distribute. And
Okay.
so
That's a very good
really,
answer.
it's certainly something that we are working hard at getting better at with the NSO. Absolutely.
And it's all about creating systems,
Yes.
and you don't know that there, in fact, is a gap until there's a gap. And then you think,
Exactly.
oh, gee, okay, for next time.
Yeah.
So here's something that I'd like to sort of like offer to people. Um, he actually, a great question from Tara. Um, Team Unity needs to know if Star 4 will be ranked, and two, if under 12 will be divided from plus 12 at events, or else I will need to reorganize all my teams for this coming season. Thank you so much. Tara, you know what? We're all in the same boat of trying to figure out kind of what's coming up. And do you have any of that information yet, Scott, or is that going to be sort of still coming?
Yeah, I don't have that information, but I will find those answers for sure. Now, as far as the how the competitions are set, that is up to us, and certainly when we get down into the nitty gritty of those things, I don't foresee us not having kind of, just like we would in singles or anything else. We do have kind of categories that try to encapsulate the ages of the athletes, again, so we're not in a position to be uncomfortable at the
Yeah.
end of it all. So if we have an abundance of teams at that level, then again, it makes sense, right, to group them together and to be in that kind of realm at the same time. So
Let's not go making sense now, Scott. We've
no.
known each other a long time. That's just terrifying.
Exactly.
Listen, I just want to say that this has been so informative, and I want to thank you for taking the time. People, once again, can get a hold of you at srachuk@skateontario.org. You know what's the coolest thing about all of this? The NSO, Skate Canada. the PSO, Skate Ontario, the parents, the coaches, the officials, and the skaters. We're all on the same side. We're just trying to make it better.
Yes.
So that part is really a message I want everybody to take away. It's sometimes a little bumpy progress, but nevertheless, we're all on the same team, which is just makes all the difference in the world. Last word belongs to you.
To me, I guess my last word is thank you for um, being here tonight. I appreciate you taking the time to ask your questions and to listen to the information that I have, and I will find the answers to the questions that were given to me that I didn't have that information for. And I just want to stress again, if you email me, I will get back to you. So
He's very good that way. I can actually speak to that whole Scott emailing back. Let's put your email address up one more time just so people have it. And again, I want to thank you for taking the time to come out and talk. And to everybody in the audience, thank you for, as you said, for all of the thoughtful questions and comments, and for really caring about your sport like you do. I mean, that's what makes skating rock. So, Scott Rachuk, thank you so much for joining me. You were fantastic. Everybody else, you can be in touch with Scott, as we mentioned, as Rachuk at skateontario.org. Thank you so much for joining us. Scott's going to be calling a meeting a little bit later on in the summer to be able to talk much more about Synchro and sort of working this all through. And best of luck to everybody. Have a wonderful evening, and thanks for joining us. Bye for now.